Dara,
wives,
Praja,
citizens,
Amatya,
and secretaries,
Pritya,
servants,
Srinya,
merchants, Atha, as well as
Mantrina,
ministers,
Pauraha,
inmates of the palace,
Janapada,
the provincial governors,
Bhupa,
landholders,
Atmaja,
sons, Vashavartina, under your full control. Translation: O King, are your wives citizens, secretaries, and servants, and the merchants who sell spices and oil under your control? Are you also in full control of ministers, the inhabitants of your palace, your provincial governors, your sons, and your other dependents? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The master or king and his subordinates should be interdependent. Through cooperation, both of them can be happy. Short purport. Read a little more. And again another short purport. The next verse. No purport, a short purport. Let's see, I read a little. Yasyat manuvashaschitsya sarvithad vashtaga ime lokaha sapalayachanti sarvipalim atandrita. If the king's mind is fully controlled, all his family members and governmental officers are subordinate to him. His provincial governors present taxes on time, without resistance. And what to speak of lesser servants? He asked the king whether his mind was also under control. This is most essential for happiness. So, one thing that strikes me here is that to be happy in the material life, it's materially happy. There's so many things that has to be adjusted properly. And in other words, it's not, we can say it's not very likely to happen, frankly speaking. There's so many things that can disturb our material happiness. We're always hoping or expecting, rather, that we shall live happily. We're expecting that our health shall be perfectly okay. We shall neither have diarrhea headache. It seems like sometimes you have to choose between the two. I was talking with my other side. Sometimes, it's either one or the other. Well, that's of course an important prerequisite for material happiness, but there's so many other things. Equally important is of course all the relationships. They have to be in order, they have to be good, there has to be, affectionate relationships with other people. If our relationships are all disturbed, and also it becomes a source of great misery. And like Prabhupada says here, above all, the mind has to be under control. This is most essential for happiness. That is, of course, the real answer, the real issue. All the other things may be properly adjusted, but if the mind is not peaceful, we will be suffering nonetheless. So, still, the conditioned soul, he has the false hope that he can adjust all these things, somehow become happy here in this material world. But we should realize that it's not likely to happen. Maybe for some short time we will be able to adjust everything so that we can be relatively happy, but something is going to come and disturb our status quo, we can be sure. And we shouldn't be surprised when that happens. Rather, we should expect it to happen. We have to come to understand that there is no happiness here in this material world. And learn to find our happiness in the spiritual platform. Even in the midst of disturbing conditions, we can be quite happy. That is the actually what it means to make advancement in spiritual life, to become unaffected, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Yes, but how can we be happy if our happiness is depending on all these external things? It can only happen when we learn to tolerate and find our happiness on the spiritual platform. It's not that by practicing Krishna consciousness all of these things will be adjusted and we will be perfectly happy in that way. No, this will not happen because this is a dream never to be fulfilled. We have to learn to find our happiness inside. Yasmin stito natupena gurunapi vicharite. When one actually attains samadhi, then one is not disturbed even in the midst of greatest difficulties. As Krishna says, 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So that is what we have to learn. Just we have to give up this false hope to find happiness by adjusting all these material factors. Yes, we have to try to adjust them still, because if they become too much, disturbed, then life becomes very difficult. It becomes very difficult to go on. Some consideration is there, just like, even though we shouldn't expect to attain perfect health. Deepak Chopra, he wrote this bestseller book about Ayurveda called Perfect Health, but it is actually a falsehood. There is no such thing as perfect health. It's not. The body is not meant to be. It is made to become sick and old and die. But still, that does not mean that we just neglect. We take care as far as possible within, without going out of our way, without making this our focus, just to stay healthy. Actually, with some basic, simple adjustments, we can keep our health much better. Just like such as following the four principles. How many, if you try to analyze what are the main causes of disease, we will find that maybe 90% of all diseases, they are caused by breaking these four principles. So just by being a devotee, this already takes care of 90% of the diseases that other people suffer from. Why is it that people, that devotees, they look beyond? Because we are not destroying our bodies in the same way as the cows. Just living in the mode of goodness. We can keep our health. We can have a long life. After all, mode of goodness means the quality of mode of goodness. The main characteristic of the mode of goodness is maintenance. So the body will be maintained. We simply come to the mode of goodness. We can maintain our good health much longer. So we should do that. And this will help us in our spiritual life. We can serve with greater energy and for a longer time. But we should say at the same time, we should know that ultimately the body is going to get sick and old and die. And there's nothing we can do about it. Basically, we just have to, all we can do is just watch it happen. And go on with our devotional service as far as possible. Understanding that we have our limitation, and don't panic just because when you find your limit in devotional service. Don't think, oh no, I should do so much and I cannot, I'm in my, and become all depressed or try for the impossible, or something like that. No, just do as much as you can and understand that everybody has their limit. And when you come to your limit, you don't try to force yourself beyond that. It will not work. You will simply, you will just crack, you will die. Rather, when we reach our limit, when we find this is my limit, we should decrease a little bit. We shouldn't always be pushing ourselves to the limit, because this is something that will burn us out very quickly. We should do a little less than our maximum. Then we can go on for a long time. This is more of goodness. So then that is actually happiness, when we serve Krishna to the best of our ability, as long as we can, and just accept the fact that we are in a material world which is full of suffering, in a material body which is basically falling apart gradually, little by little. Don't become disturbed. Just finally we should try to understand this is just a fact. And just like Haridas Thakur in his final days, he was in Ghana, and he was chanting very slowly and appearing to have some problem. Lord Chaitanya would come to him daily, and one day he came, and Haridas Thakur, he was apparently sick, and Lord Chaitanya asked him, what is your problem? And Haridas Thakur said, actually my sickness is I cannot finish my rounds. Yes, 100 and how many?
90.
190.
Was it 192?
192 rounds he couldn't finish. That was, he felt very, very sorry for that. But Lord Chaitanya said, it's okay, now you become an old man, you can reduce the number. It is okay. So, yes, the time will come for us also. My Guru Maharaj in his final days, he was not chanting much japa. And he probably stated that I'm a failure. I'm not chanting. But that was his humility. I don't think he was a failure by any means. He was always with devotees. There was kirtan going on all the time in his room. And he was in the holy dance, so there was no room for Maya, even though he was not chanting his 16 rounds. So that may also happen to us. We may not be able to keep up our service, even our chanting. It may come to that stage. But that is not the point. The point is we do as much as we can and be happy in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we push so much that we become very distressed, very nervous. And that's also not good, because the main thing is we should be happy in Krishna consciousness, not by satisfying our senses, but as a principle. The devotee must always be happy for Krishna. The whole point is to love Krishna and situate ourselves in such a way as to please the Lord. And said many times. Basically, Krishna is happy just to see us happy. So even if we are not happy, we may pretend that we are happy just for Krishna's sake. That is not actually pretension, that is how we should think. And when we forego our own happiness in that way, and just try to think how we can make Krishna happy, and we shall find that actually we become happy also. That is our whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness, but we tend to sometimes forget that. That the key to happiness is to forget about our happiness and think about Krishna's happiness. That is how a devotee thinks. Everybody is just thinking, how can I be happy? How can I be happy? Making so many plans. But a devotee doesn't think like that. He knows it's not going to happen. Too many factors are involved, just like we see here. How many things that has to be adjusted. Gira Rishi knows the science very well. It's very difficult. So devotee, rather than trying for the impossible, he simply just, whatever situation he is in, he will tolerate and just somehow try to serve Krishna. With enthusiasm, with happiness. And that would, this way we can transcend all of this problems. I can read a little more. Atmana priyate natma parataha svata evava lakshate lapaka mantram chintaya sadalamukam. O King Chitraketu, I can observe that your mind is not pleased. You seem to have achieved your desired goal. Is this because of you yourself? Or has it been caused by others? No. You seem not to have achieved your desired goal. Is this because of you yourself? Or has it been caused by others? Your pale face reflects your deep anxiety. Vivambikapito rajam vidusha munina pisaha prashaya vanatobhya prajakamas tatumunim. Sukadeva Goswami said, O King Parikshit, although the great sage Angira knew everything, he inquired from the king in this way. Thus, King Chitraketu, desiring a son, bent low in great humility and spoke to the great sage as follows. Purport, since the face is the index to the mind, a saintly person can study the condition of one's mind by seeing his face. Then Angira Rishi remarked about the king's discolored face. King Chitraketu explained the cause of his anxiety as follows. Chitraketu vacha Bhagavan kimna viditam tato jnana samadhi bhihi yoginam dvasta papanam bahir antaha saririshu. King Chitraketu said, O great Lord Angira, because of austerity, knowledge and transcendental samadhi, you are free from all the reactions of sinful life. Therefore, as a perfect yogi, you can understand everything external and internal regarding embodied conditioned souls like us. Tapi Pritato Bruyam Brahman Atmani Chintitam Bhavatu Vidushaschapi Choditastra Anunyaya. The great soul, you are aware of everything. Yet you are asking me why I am full of anxiety. Therefore, in response to your order, let me disclose the cause. Lokapale api praja samrajaishvaya sambhadaha ananta yantiya prajam ma kshutrikamam vapare. As a person aggrieved by hunger and thirst is not pleased by the external gratification of flower gardens or sandalwood pulp, I am not pleased with my empire, opulence, or possessions. These are desirable even for great demigods, because I have no son. Tataha pahi mahabhaga purvaisaha gatamtama yatha tarima dusparam rajayata videtina. Therefore, O great sage, please save me from my forefathers, who are descending to the darkness of hell because I have no progeny. Kindly do something so that I may have a son to deliver us from hellish conditions. But according to Vedic civilization, one gets married simply to have a son who is needed to offer oblations to his forefathers. King Chitraketu responsibly desired to beget a child so that he and his forefathers might be delivered from the darkest regions. He was concerned with how to get punya, oblations, in the next life, not only for himself, but also for his forefathers. Therefore, he requested Angira Rishi to favor him by doing something that could help him get a son. Yeah. So, I'm also in the same unfortunate condition. I don't have a son. So, what to do? Of course, for devotees, we're not dependent on the sun to save us from the darkest regions. Taking shelter of Krishna and Krishna will save us. That is our only solace. But it's interesting to see here how people's concern have changed over time. Of course, people also want offspring, but it doesn't have the same prominent place in their minds like it had in previous ages. This is, in a way, unfortunate, because